Yo, what's good, guys? It's your boy Limited Talks here. Today, we're talking about Marvel's Black Widow and talking about how Blade star Stephen Dorff says Marvel's Black Widow looks like garbage, claim he feels embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson. Now, this is not the only article we're gonna read. We're gonna look at these three other articles that we're gonna be looking at. And well, I want to start with this article because I feel like Stephen Dorff is kind of like what a lot of people will be like when the MCU is not in the same place as it was like 3 or 4 years ago. After the events of Endgame, all of you are gonna be thinking they're gonna tune out of Avengers. They're gonna be like, man, listen, why does Black Widow all of a sudden have her own film after she dies? Like, it feels like the fact that Marvel wanted to make this Black Widow movie for a long time, but they just could never do it. Like, she should have gotten her own movie in like phase 1 or 2. She should have gotten it, but they had to wait until after she died, which kind of sucks for Scarlett Johansson. According to the man himself, Blade star Stephen Dorff is not impressed with what he's seen of Disney's Black Widow, as the actor recently asserted that the upcoming entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe looks like garbage. So much so that the production made him feel embarrassed for the film star Scarlett Johansson. Dorff, who can also consider himself a Marvel actor thanks to his portrayal of the villain Deacon Foss in the 1998 film adaptation of Blade, expressed his unbiased opinion of Black Widow while speaking to his personal career philosophy during a recent interview with UK news outlet The Independent, telling staff reporter Adam White, I still hunt out for the good shit because I don't want to be in Black Widow. It looks like garbage to me, said Dorff. It looks like a bad video game. I'm embarrassed for those people. Like, my thing about this is Black Widow is a very, you're on one side or the other when it comes to like the MCU now, where you think everything is terrible after Endgame, or you think, oh, it's pretty good, right? Like, when it comes to like certain series like WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and recently Black Widow, which comes out in 3 days actually, it feels like that film is decisive, right? Where you feel like, man, this movie is good, but it's not what I think. I mean, a lot of people are gonna do the whole clickbait thing, like, oh, Black Widow's terrible, and then when in the review it's like, oh, well, it's actually not that bad. But like, I've been missing a lot of reviews. I haven't seen anything like spoilers or whatever. I haven't watched it, of course, so I can't tell you anything about it. But if I hear it so far, it's been pretty damn good. The third act has been kind of iffy for some people. So honestly, it's just based on your opinion. You can't go based on other people's opinion. Like, you can't judge Neurotic. I mean, I love Neurotic. Don't get me wrong. I love Neurotic in his videos. But you can't always be like, oh, Loki is terrible because of what he says. You're like, okay, I look at Neurotic, he says it's terrible. I look at Angry Joe and he says he's great. And now I have to decide on my own opinion. Like, is it good or is it bad? And then boom, you make that decision. He also expressed specific embarrassment on behalf of Johansson, who portrays the film's imponious Russian super spy, exclaiming, "I'm embarrassed for Scarlett. I'm sure she's got paid $7 million, but I'm embarrassed for her. I don't want to be in those movies," he continued. "I really don't. I'll find that kid director that's going to be the next Kubrick, and I'll act for him instead." The actor also took a swing at the Oscars and Hollywood in general, knowing that this year's Oscars were the most embarrassing thing I've seen. My business is becoming a big game show. My business is becoming a big game show, he laminated. You have actors that don't have a clue what they're doing. You have filmmakers that don't have a clue what they're doing. We're all in these little boxes on these streamers, TV, film. It's one big clusterfuck of content now. Now, I'm not surprised because a lot of people will be like, again, it's like you're either on one side of the argument, right? You either like, you think Black Widow looks terrible, like, oh, it looks garbage, I'm not watching this film, but you decide to go watch it anyway because, you know, content, right? But then, like, in my opinion, like, I think Black Widow is gonna be a fine movie. I don't think it's gonna be great, just because, like, again, Black Widow should have got this film like 8 to 10 years ago. She just got a film at the very beginning of when the Avengers were started, but they went until after she died to even, like, you know, to even get to this point. You know, she had to wait to die to even get to the point where she's gonna get her own film, right? And I'm not reading this article, but I just want to read this headline by CBR. Johansson described early MCU Black Widow as a centerpiece for her male counterparts. which I don't really know. I don't know why like they're so adamant on like this is not gonna be for men, right? This is not gonna be for men. It's gonna be a feminist movie. It's not gonna be a feminist movie. We have all seen the trailer. I don't think it's gonna be a feminist movie, not unless it's a complete 180 of what they have done in the last couple of years. Not to be a complete 180. I don't think it will be, but I wouldn't be surprised if this movie is like a feminist movie talking about how like men are bad or whatever. I don't know. So, I want to get this article by Pirates and Princesses. There's a lot of talk about the sexualization of Black Widow, but why didn't Marvel do anything sooner? Now, this is an interesting article, right? Because there's so much talk about how Scarlett Johansson back in like Iron Man 2 where she was over-sexualized as Black Widow, right? Mind you, this was like 10, 12 years ago. When did Iron Man 2 come out? 2010? I think? I don't remember. 2010, 2011, I think so. Around that time. That's like 11 years ago. I mean, I understand like, yeah, you can talk about it now because so many people are so sensitive nowadays. And yeah, you can say this because people are so sensitive nowadays that they can honestly just kind of get away with it. And I kind of want to look at this article saying that recently there's been a lot of talk about how everyone is put off by the way Black Widow has been treated in the MCU, starting with her appearance in Iron Man 2, which is most recently. It wasn't, mind you, this wasn't like, if this was back in Iron Man 2, like if people had an issue, sure, but it's not. This is completely separate. This is gonna be happening now. Because most people probably went back and we watched Iron Man 2 like, man, Scarlett Johansson was really over-sexualized in this film. But again, like, I don't have an issue with it because most of the time in these MCU movies, they have the guy taking the shirt off for fan service for the woman. Like, come on. You can't have your cake and eat it too, man. Come on. Now, Scarlett Johansson has been criticizing how the character was treated previously, telling Collider. I meant, you look back at Iron Man 2, and while it was really fun and had a lot of great moments in it, the character is so sexualized, you know? Really talking about it like she's a piece of something, like a possession or a thing or whatever, like a piece of ass, really. And Tony even refers to her as something like that at one moment. What does he say? I want some. Yeah, I want some. Yeah, and at one point calling her a piece of meat, and maybe at a time that actually felt like a compliment. You know what I mean? Because my thinking was different. Maybe I even would have, you know, my own self-worth was probably measured against that type of comment, or like a lot of young women, you come into your own and you understand your own self-worth. Of course, the character has been more over the years. There were years of films to flesh out all the characters and relationships better, including Natasha. If you go by the character, she's called Black Widow for a reason. Right or wrong, that was where she came from. What angers me is the sudden push to stop sexualizing a character that they could have treated better all along. I've always loved Natasha, but because unlike most of the Avengers counterparts, she doesn't have superpowers. She doesn't have a super serum, doesn't have changes due to gamma radiation, doesn't have high-powered and expensive suits, or doesn't also create energy. She had herself, her skills, and her guns. The very fact that Disney and Marvel haven't given her a movie until after the character died in Avengers Endgame is more of a testament of how they treated the character like eye candy and not an actual character for the longest time. Because, let's be honest, right? She should have got on a movie way before this movie came out, right? My whole problem with this now is, now they want to talk about how she's over-sexualized, or how, like, the fact that she shouldn't have gotten on a movie. People have been claiming it for years that people wanted to see a Black Widow film. People have clamored for a Black Widow film. Like, they're coming for it before Wonder Woman and Norman 1984. They have clamored for it. Hell, even I have said I want to see a Black Widow film. But now they're kind of releasing it. It feels like more like a slap in the face to the character of Black Widow and the fans of Black Widow because, well, she died. That's the issue. She died. There's no ramifications for this film. Not unless something happens at the very end of the film was like, you know, after the fact that she died, then something happens, right? Like, there's like nothing about this film makes it feel like anything matters for Black Widow. Nothing matters for Black Widow because guess what? It's set in the past. It was set in present day. Maybe like I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks before the events of you know, Thanos, and maybe, but no, it's set like what, before Infinity War. Wait, is it before during Infinity War? I think it's before Infinity War, I think. I think it was. They set this up before that case, so you mean to tell me the fact of like that nothing matters, right? Nothing about Black Widow's death will change anything, because like Black Widow, she's dead. This film is a prequel. This means this movie doesn't matter at the end of the day. It really doesn't, and it sucks because I love Black Widow as a character. I love Scarlett Johansson as an actress, but at the end of the day, it's like I'm watching this film and like, well, I mean, she's dead, right? So like, what the heck what does it mean? Like, well, she's dead. Like, nothing changes that. Nothing can. Plus, how about the poster for the Black Widow film? Seems a bit sexy to me. I guess it was only sexualize her for that. Now they want to talk about how it's wrong to sexualize and sideline or use a female character as a chess piece when they've been the ones doing it for the entire time. She didn't even get a funeral in Avengers Endgame, but Tony did. If you are so darn offended by how she's been treated as a chess piece, why didn't Marvel give her the same treatment they gave Tony Stark? She sacrificed herself too, not just for Hawkeye, but for everyone, just like Tony. Remember, Tony got a funeral, like, Vision didn't get a funeral, Black Widow didn't get a funeral. Pretty much all the people who just died were just like, yeah, man, I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about her too. And I'm like, that's it? That's all we get. It's like, yep, that's all you get. Like, wow, that sucks. And in fact, that's crazy that we only get that amount of evidence. That's all we get. We get like one thing. We get one piece of dialogue saying, yeah, I'm thinking about them too. All right, let's move on. It's like, I was like, what the heck? I think I'm more offended by the fact that they're all trying to backpedal now after the fact, because they want to promote a female-centric Black Widow film, as well as a new push they have a face for that may accompany the MCU. Why can't we just have strong female characters and they not making it a talking point for cloud with the media? Show not tell. Because this thing, Marvel is running out of fucking ideas. Okay, listen, not Marvel, more or less Disney. Again, Marvel's under Disney, and Disney's kind of like pushing this fact of like, oh yeah, female empowerment. You know, we gotta get those Twitter likes. But again, the Twitter likes don't equate to money. That's, I think, what they're missing, is they're trying to make it sound like that this film was like more popular than what it will be. Now, Disney should realize one thing. They have to realize that yes, you can make strong female characters, but you have to write them well. That's my thing. You have to write them well. If they're not written well, then they're kind of like just stepping stones. They're stepping stones. If you have to point them out, then you're always doing something wrong. You are doing something right to begin with. If we're being honest, up until Natasha died and wasn't given a funeral or movie before the character's death, they weren't doing that bad with her. Marvel has moved away from her origins, and the character has developed quite a bit, to the point where you weren't even thinking about that, and she became more like a mom caring about everyone. Because of her origins, they gave us so much more depth and realism. They are talking about family theme in the next film as well. So why go back and pretend she was always sexualized now? It diminishes what the character has accomplished and become. Alright, there's a movie they had to promote and buzzwords. Talk about using a female character as a chess piece. Like, my whole thing about this is too, they have to, I think a lot of people kind of realize this as well. Marvel is very much trying to say that Black Widow is a very important character to the film, but they have to wait until after her death to be might become more of a chess piece, right? He's right. I think my whole thing about this is Marvel is running out of ideas. Like, Marvel is going to that point where, again, the buzz for this movie went downhill too. Like, the buzz for this movie was kind of low enough as this, because again, this movie was supposed to come out last year in May, I think, right? Last year in May. Like, it was supposed to come out last year in May. And I think the fact that now releasing it after the whole pandemic situation, because of course you gotta maximize the amount of money you possibly can get. Now they're releasing it, and now the buzz for this movie is like, I'm not really sure about this film anymore, and it's just like, man, you lost a lot of people by waiting. That's what you did. You lost a lot of people by waiting. And of course, I want to talk about this article by Bounding Comics about how the low interest forecast a potentially poor box office haul. Now again, don't take this article literally. Like, just because it has low interest does not mean that it will have a poor box office haul, because because the interest is low does not mean the box office will be low, right? Or will be none. Of course, this is just talking about how it's compared to other movies. How Space Jam had a little bit right there with the blue. You have Luca with red, which, you know, whatever. Green, yellow is A Quiet Place. Green is Loki. And then purple is Black Widow, which has been steadily just been kind of. There's been not been like a lot of buzz really for Black Widow. I mean, there's not been any. Black Widow seemed to have very low interest leading up to the launches this summer. You see a little bump for Space Jam 2 when the trailer released, but overall it's not generating such search engines. We can see just how popular Loki is. Loki's first week launched at 78% of Quiet Place 2's interest level, and Loki dropped only 4% in the second week, considering that when a film launches, it basically gets a few weeks of interest and it creates into a home or streaming release. When you get some interest once more, unless there's a sequel, that's the end, and you will look back at the end and interest combined with revenues to see how they correlate. But Loki, however, is a streaming series and it's going to at least hold its interest levels for many weeks, but it could also continue rising. Unlikely the finale will go far above this, and all those weeks that it'll be driving internet traffic is likely driving people to Disney Plus as well. About Luca and talking about the data. Something I'd like you to take note is that Black Widow is 3 weeks from its launch. Look at the buzz of Quiet Place 2 at 3 weeks before its launch. Quiet Place was tracking at 12% of its eventual maximum internet interest. Now let's look at Black Widow. It's only pulling 80% of what Quiet Place 2 was if you look at both properties 3 weeks before their releases. So why is this a point? Now, also, I want to say this as well, that Black Widow was supposed to come out like a long time ago before the whole pandemic thing happened. So again, maybe it's just people like, man, it's coming out. It's like, no, it's not. It's Disney Plus. No, it's not. Oh, we gotta wait a little longer. Oh, now we have the official release date. You know, like, I see the whole thing about that sucks about Black Widow. It's like that Black Widow had to really wait until they had to release the film, right? They had to really wait. And I think that's crazy is that Black Widow had to wait this long to get her own film. What the fuck? That's crazy. And I want to look at this article too. This actually just happened like today, actually. Remains far more popular than Black Widow. Now, again, this is talking about the averages, right? So how many average people are watching, right? There's a marketing lesson to be learned here. As we refer to Black Widow's titular film debut, upon we discussed before, we're talking about this article, it's becoming more apparent for Marvel Studios. They have 2 premiering properties and one is far more popular than the other. So I'm tasting the blue. Yeah, the blue will be Loki and the red is Black Widow. You can kind of see very little buzz and it kind of goes up, stays down a little bit, and it goes up a little bit. But you can tell there's something here about Black Widow. Black Widow is not getting that much buzz. I think the thing too is because I think some people have been waiting on this film. And also another thing too is that Black Widow dies. Black Widow's dead. Like, there's no real reason to go watch this film because, again, she's dead. Like, what's the whole point? What's the point of watching the film? I know the main character is just dead in the film. There's, like, legit no point. And seeing the chart above, Loki represented in blue has been drawing more interest even on its lowest days than Black Widow on its best pre-release days. No news stories, no interviews, no talk shows, appearances have budgeted the interest in Scarlett Johansson's film. And this despite the character and actors having been widely popular in the past. The whole problem too is this film should have came out 10 years ago. That's the thing. It should have came out 10 years ago, and now it's releasing. And now it feels like, wow, I've watched Scarlett Johansson all these years, and now she's dead. There's no point in me watching a prequel story. While Loki has its ups and downs, specifically with episodes 3 and 4 being diverse and oddly paced, is actually gaining its popularity. That's after a 25% drop in interest and viewership for the 3rd episode. Whether or not that can be maintained going into the final 2 entries has yet to be seen, but the show has been staying power. In order for it to begin the cultural digest it could have been, we have needed to see more growth after the first 2 episodes. But even with the mid-season stumble, the show remains very popular. And it's something about that. Like, again, Black Widow at this point has been a very interesting film to kind of even talk about because there's so much stuff about Black Widow coming up, about how there's been a little interest with Black Widow, how Loki has been made more popular than Black Widow. Because again, it's like, again, Loki has been a TV show that has been pretty successful with it when it comes to like reviews, stuff like that. I know a lot of people are like diverse, are like, you know, a lot of people are always like, Loki's not as good as people say it is. You know, Loki's alright, Loki's garbage. But I think Loki's a pretty damn good movie to watch. If you haven't watched Loki yet, find a way to watch Loki. It's really good. Well, anyway, tell me, guys, what do you guys think about the whole Black Widow situation? What do you think about Stephen Dorff saying that Black Widow was like garbage? Tell me what you think about, you know, Johansson thinking that this is gonna be Black Widow is gonna be an early chess piece for her male counterparts. How like there's a lot of talk about sexualizations of Black Widow, but why didn't Marvel do that anything sooner? And how pretty much that Black Widow has low interest rate and how Loki has been far better. Tell me, do you guys believe in any of these articles? Do you believe in anything that you see today? Also, let me know what else you guys want me to talk about, what you guys want me to react to, and I'll react to that. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Oh, but also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.